and the subject to the definition of sex?
Well, there was a debate in Westminster Hall on the definition of sex, as it is recorded in the Equality Act. And our guest today, Di Meakin, was looking closely at this debate. Di, welcome.
David, hi everyone.
So before we go into some of the specifics, what was your overall impression of this debate?
It was a very well-informed piece of conversation. There were opinions from both sides of the fence, I guess, in as much as there were people who were supportive of the transgender side who were very vocal and expressed theirs and others' opinions on it. And there were people who were supporting the clarification requirement within that piece of legislation. And they were very strongly opinionated on that also.
And the underlying principle at stake here is if the definition cannot stand, then all of the protections for women enshrined in this legislation essentially are eroded. Is that the case?
Yeah, it certainly is. The idea of bringing if we have a situation where sex is not classified strictly as biological sex, then in actual fact, anyone who, i.e. Isla Bryson or the likes of his other prisoners, I guess, when they identify into the women's category, then what you have is a situation where you can't actually say no to these men because they identify as women. Therefore, they would be protected by law in the Equality Act. And women's rights, in actual fact, are just blown to the wind.
Yes. We've got a couple of extracts here from the debate. Janil Rewardina, MP for North East Hampshire, he said that in 1597, Edward Coke, Attorney General, told Parliament that the law cannot do the impossible. The example he used was that the law cannot make a man into a woman. I believe he was right then, and he is right now. Joanna Cherry, you'll be talking about her shortly. She said the protected characteristics of sexual orientation is contingent on the definition of sex as meaning biological sex. Gender identity is not relevant to sexual attraction. And Miriam Cates, MP for Penistone and Stocksbridge, she said there's nothing more destabilising to society than to dismantle the legal, social and cultural guardrails that protect women and children by pretending that males become females and vice versa and allowing that to creep into our law. Now, by way of, in part, light relief, we've got a video here. This is Kirsty Blackman, MP. MP from Aberdeen, speaking within this debate. And I would encourage everyone to look at Joanna Cherry behind her and watch her reaction.
We've talked about biological sex a number of times. Not one person has been able to explain what biological sex was. The member over there gave a good stab at it, talking about XX and XY chromosomes. I have no idea what my chromosomes are. I have an assumption that they are probably XY, but I don't know. I've not got a clue what my chromosomes are. I've got a fair idea of what my genitals look like and how that compares to what other people's genitals look like. But if we're talking about biological sex and we are requiring that to be the definition, there needs to be an actual definition that everybody in this room can agree with. And it is not the case that anybody has been able to provide a definition on this.
Poor Joanna Cherry having to listen to that. So this is what the extreme neo-Marxist left are trying to do. They're trying to play around with making exceptions destroy definitions so that you can't know anything. If you can't know anything, then everything's permitted. There are no boundaries. and everything goes. Just before we move on to another clip, Di, do you have any comments on that one?
Yes, I would ask the question of how she on earth managed to deliver 2 children if she has XY chromosomes.
That's an excellent question. Now, same speech, later on in the speech, and another reaction from Joanna Cherry. This one more serious, and a lot of people have been attacking Joanna Cherry over this reaction. I think unfairly. We'll see what you think, Di. We'll run the video and then perhaps you could comment.
In this change being made, they said, what hope is left? Should I just kill myself now and be done with it? They will not rest until trans people are excluded from public life.
Di, what do you make of that?
I found the introduction of such subjects into that debate outrageous, and in actual fact, the statement from the Sex Matters organisation with regard to that was raising suicide threats as a response to legitimate debate about legislation is neither respectful nor responsible. Now, it really just, that kind of comment really does buy into the emotional blackmail situation in which some parents find themselves, where they're asked if they would rather have a transgender daughter or a dead son. Now, it's utter emotional blackmail, and outrageous should not be introduced into these kind of conversations where it's manipulation and nothing more.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that, Di. We'll be back to you shortly. Brian.
Incredible watching these people. What was in my head is that this whole agenda, of course, has now been driven deep into society in Ukraine, and the average person in Ukraine, no idea what is coming from the West, but the complete destruction of all their values, all their belief systems, and we're watching it unfold here. And of course, I can imagine that many Ukrainians look at UK and think it's a bastion of sensibility and justice and democracy, but we're demonstrating something completely